Nick's got together with a couple of other people from other unis to look at communities and campuses as sites and places for sustainability education. So do you want to say something about that, Nick?
Yeah, thanks, Colin. So looked at building on the February outcomes, talking about sort of regional linkages, understanding and linking to the region in which education for sustainability is taking place. So in terms of, we know quite a few of the initiatives that are happening through this national network, but they're only in the form of listings. So in Tasmania, University of Western Sydney, La Trobe Uni, Charles Sturt, UTas. So we've got a bit of a listing there. But what I want to offer just at this stage is a bit of direct experience from University of Western Sydney. So thanks to Jen Dolan for sharing some her experience, and from the University of Tasmania, our Education for Sustainability community practice. So in terms of that, those two universities, University of Western Sydney have an Our Place Greater Western Sydney initiative, and essentially there was funding for sort of participatory action research on sustainability educators and the local places that community are connected to. Within the University of Tasmania, we actually got an community engagement grant, and from that have run 3 forums across the state, which have targeted broadly community, industry sector, as well as education sector. And so I guess just reflecting on some of the learnings from those 2 universities and the initiatives we've pursued so far. Key one is actually being quite clear on both the meaning and the intention behind community engagement for education for sustainability. And so in that regard, a sort of reflection on ourselves, or a question is to say, what's the value proposition for the university and how is this defined? And I guess, we can also say from a sort of more generic senior management level that there are apparent benefits in terms of community engagement, such goals such as sort of creating a positive profile and essentially encouraging great enrolments. You know, that's a bit of a bottom liner for senior management, and I guess in part that's a bit of leveraging that we can do is if we can indicate that our community engagement initiatives may lead to some of those outcomes, and that's pretty valuable. I guess moving on, I guess sort of looking at both the University of Western Sydney, they sort of talk about engagement as a partnership for mutual benefit between the university and its communities, and being a distinctive avenue for research, teaching, learning, and so on. Similar sort of language within the university strategic plan, but interestingly, so it says, you know, positioning UTas as a catalyst for democratic conversation in Tasmania and courageous in tackling challenging topics. I mean, that's screaming education for sustainability and sustainability more broadly, but we still have to articulate the sort of value proposition for the university to go out there and engage. Now, the converse side, of course, is saying that, and this is particularly from our forums perspective, having 3 community forums, is there actually has to be a clear purpose or reason for members of the community, business or industry sectors to want to engage and establish collaborative relationships. So it's what's the value proposition for those external to our university. And, you know, and that can be quite hard to articulate in some respects. You know, we have a clear sense and a clearly articulated sense of how we engage and the value of engaging, but it's not always shared reciprocally. And related to those 2, of course, is saying what's the impact of education for sustainability engagement? You know, what sort of quantitative, qualitative metrics can we create to say, yes, this is a valuable contribution of the university? Okay, I've got just, I guess, two more broad points, really.
You need to be really quick, Nick.
Yeah. One's on cultural barriers. It's essentially we're quite comfortable in the academics or discourse, but as soon as you move into the community sector, talking about research tends to scare people, and likewise, some of the academic sort of conversations tend not to be quite as appealing to community. In that regard, that's where campuses come in terms of well-designed campuses that provide tangible expressions of what can otherwise be quite conceptual ideas. And that's an important means to actually create the bridge between sustainability as a concept, as in, or sustainability as a practice and a way of being. There's some obvious logistical and practical considerations, and we're actually exploring this.
We need to tie it up, I think.
Networking.
Yeah.
Yep. I guess and one of the final things, I guess, in terms of thinking about momentum, is if we've generated momentum, what are the mechanisms that we can put in place to ensure that sort of new entrants actually can quickly join in to our initiatives, and we can actually bring people up to speed so they actually can quite quickly contribute. So there's probably more questions than answers at this stage.
Yeah.
But I guess we can sort of share this more broadly on the blog or other means.
Yeah, that's right. So this is really just a Kickstarter in terms of thinking about it. So if we try and get through these pretty quickly, just some points, and then we can, on the blog, actually fold these out in more detail, because there's some great stories there and there's some great ideas. One of the things that Jeff Scott says is that building networks of people in sustainability is a bit like building networks with the community. There's a lot of features in common if you think about what Nick just said in terms of what's the value proposition, bringing people along, allowing people to get involved quickly, etc. And the same language, there are some issues there that we might learn from. Now,